Hello there, welcome. It's Inktober day 20. We're on the final stretch now, and today's prompt is bluff. Now, I don't know about you, but when I saw the prompt bluff, the first thing that I thought of was poker and like a pack of cards and people playing poker basically. So that's the idea that I wanted to go with. I've never done anything like this before. I used pen for all of these planning sketches and I didn't do any pencil underneath. So they were quite bold lines and some of them don't look great, but I feel like if I do pencil for the planning, I'm just going to be there for years, just like rubbing it out and trying to perfect it. So I've been starting using pen a lot more just for the really quick stages, the quick thumbnails that I want to do. So the idea that I had was two people playing poker basically, and I thought, how can I incorporate that with ink? That was quite a difficult one really, because I knew I wanted the contrast between really undiluted black ink and the really white highlights. I didn't want any of that, lots of variations of grey, which I've had quite a lot of so far, so I definitely wanted that. So the main idea I had for this one was two people playing poker. They were going to be women because I just prefer creating women. I don't know what it is. And then I had the idea of the two women being like an angel and a devil. The kind of idea that, when you have like an angel and a devil on your shoulder and they're both trying to kind of manipulate you. I thought that went quite well with, people playing poker, playing bluff, as though, it's a bit on the nose. Obviously, poker is quite obvious what it is. It is quite on the nose, this one. It's not really hidden, but I wanted to do some that are a little bit like that. It's still using the prompt rather than, you can't really create anything obviously with bluff, but it's, it's still using the prompt, and I do like the concept. I felt like this one was going to take a long while though, and I do think it did take a bit longer, but you'll see I don't think it took as long as I was probably thinking because of the way that I did the background. So the idea that I had was, obviously I wanted the angel to be really quite light, and obviously the devil couldn't be red. So I kind of thought, thinking ahead, which literally is the first time that I've done that on day 20, thinking ahead, I was like, can I do the entire background in solid black and then try to sort of keep everything on top and work sort of backwards, doing the background first? And it's a really interesting idea, that one. It's definitely the first time I've done that, but I do want to do more like actual thinking ahead. So that was the plan for this one. So at this point, I was adding the dip pen and I was adding the line work, but I was very conscious that I didn't want to make the actual drawing, like the inside of the drawing, not the background. I didn't want to do too many lines. I didn't want to make it too dark because I knew that the background was going to be like pure black. So when I went through with the dip pen, as I said, I just did pretty much just singular lines. I didn't do any kind of cross-hatching or anything like that. I wanted to try and keep it as light as possible. I'm not ecstatic with how both of the faces went. I think I worked quite quickly and I didn't have any references, and I think that does show. And obviously it's like I was using a dip pen, which is generally harder than like fineliners, and I didn't have any references, as I say. If it was going to be a watercolour piece, I would have put a lot more effort in to make sure all of the anatomy was correct. I think the bodies don't look great. They do look very animated. They don't look very actually like correct. It looks more like a style choice than that the bodies are actually anatomically correct, because obviously they aren't. The heads I'm kind of okay with. I quite like the side profile of the devil. I couldn't make the horns actually look like devil horns. I saw a few photos, but they look so different depending on like the artist that created them. So there wasn't one singular devil horn that I could find that was like obvious what it was if it's not red. And so I hope that it shows that it's an angel and a devil, but it was really hard to kind of get that across without being able to add colours. I think the angel, you can kind of tell what it is, but without the red of the devil, that was quite difficult. I ended up keeping them sitting on chairs, but then their legs, because I didn't want to do feet and I didn't really want to do the underneath, because I didn't feel like that was necessary, what's going on under the table, like it wasn't necessary to the picture, and I knew the top half was going to take a while. So in the end, I ended up keeping sort of the legs of the chairs in, and then I just kind of went round and just kind of tried to minimalize it as much as possible, so their legs do kind of disappear, but I just didn't feel like that was relevant. I do like the way that I rounded out the end of the table and chairs rather than going right to the bottom. The main reason for that was basically because like the table would have ended and hit the floor, and then I had nowhere for it to go, so it just ended up being round like that. But I do really quite like that. So because I did the background first and I wanted to keep everything else light, really I did. Like the angel, I knew I wanted to keep really, really light, so the devil had to be a little bit darker to just prove that the angel was, you know, what it represents. And I really didn't add much colour whatsoever to it, not much ink. Like, I did a light layer on the skin, but that's pretty much it. So this is how this one's turned out. I think it's really quite unique. There are aspects to it that I do really like. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I would love if you could subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye bye.